Good afternoon. My name is Drew McGuire. I work at EPRI, and I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina right now, but I actually grew up in a relatively small town in North Alabama. And growing up in northern Alabama, tornadoes were relatively common. Our towns, we invested in alarm sirens to give advanced warning. We had drills in school about what to do. We had plans at home. And we were really used to the power going out when the storms would roll through. It was just a part of our life at that point. And in my mind as a child, I actually had a map of the United States where each region of the country had its typical natural disaster. For us, we had tornadoes. The coast, they had hurricanes. The mountains in the northeast had snow and ice, and the west coast had earthquakes. In retrospect, it was a pretty simplistic view of the world. As I grew up, I quickly learned that things are more complicated than that, especially in the world of grid resiliency. And in that case, it's much more complex than I understood. When we think about resiliency these days, we think of things like storms, wildfire, physical attack, solar flares, just to name a few. Then on top of that, we're always wondering how these threats are going to change over time, over the next few decades. But it isn't all bad news. Even though we may have more resiliency challenges these days, we also have more technology and innovation than we've ever had before. New monitoring technologies give real-time visibility to asset condition. Distribution automation schemes allow the system to reconfigure to minimize outages. Drones give faster damage assessments after storms, and resilient designs minimize the work that needs to be done after a storm comes through. There are more tools in our resiliency toolbox than we have ever had before. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. The first one is an approach for reducing the damage from a storm on distribution, specifically around overhead distribution designs. To put the discussion in context, data shows that if you can design your distribution system to reduce the number of broken poles, repair time for each pole could be reduced by 60 to 80%. Now, it's easy to say the words, save the pole, but it turns out that each structure and each design is a highly complex system of many interacting components. So EPRI has developed a unique test site in our Linux lab where we can build full-scale distribution structures just like you would find in the field. Then we intentionally subject them to impact loads like a tree strike. This lets us see how designs actually perform and how we can make them more resilient. We've performed dozens of these tests over the last few years, each on a unique design, but many with the common goal of preventing the pole from breaking. One of the great benefits that this site has is that the results are very clear and they're immediately actionable. These days, it's not uncommon for us to perform one of these tests, discuss the results, and quickly make modifications to the design before the next test, as the test is viewed in real time by utility engineers back home. Another benefit of the test site is the scale of implementation. The results from just one of these tests can influence hundreds or thousands of structures that are going to last decades in the field. So that means that incremental improvements in the design will have long and big, long-lasting impacts when they're built. Another topic that's high on the resilience radar is physical security. The data shows that security-related events in substations have almost tripled in the last 5 years. The physical security message is all about detect, deter, and respond. And once again, there are many emerging technologies that could help. And once again, utility engineers are faced with a challenge of understanding what technology to use, when and how to deploy it to get the most benefit. That's why you see research like the bushing you'll find in the lobby here at the meeting this week. That bushing is a result of ballistic testing on substation equipment, where we're understanding how those assets are subjected to different types of security threats and the real risk that those assets face. You can see other security-focused R&D projects that are investigating new technologies to increase situational awareness if a security event does happen. This could be sensors for real-time visibility. It could be robots or drones that can be deployed at a moment's notice to investigate a situation without even having to send people into the substation. If you were at summer seminar last year, you would have met Spot. That's one of those robots that we're investigating for that application. And speaking of drones, while utilities can use them to increase situational awareness, they can also be used maliciously. So we're testing drone detection systems in our lab to understand how they work in substation environments surrounded by metal and other energized equipment. And you can already see some utilities using those results to install detection systems in their substations today. Regardless of whether we're talking about trees falling during a hurricane, physical security threats, or most other resilience topics, it's critical that utility teams understand the risk, know what tools they have in their toolbox, and when and how to use each one of those tools. So while things aren't quite as simple as I thought they were when I was a child, I'm happy to share with you that we have more technology at our disposal than ever before, and the pace of development, testing, and deployment is only accelerating. Thank you.